Alright, muri yeZimbabwe kusangana kwatiri kuita zvakare ipo pano paZim News update apo patinoda kupa mafirst hand update anonga ari kuitika munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. So kana uri musavasavhi pano usina kusubscribe, kulike nekushare. So tine mashoko etiri kutambira pano ari kubva kumilitary intelligent vari kutaurwa kunzi Oppah Muchinguri airlifted to India, akaendeswa kuIndia zvechimbi akaendeswa kuIndia nenhauwa yei muri yeZimbabwe. Oppah Muchinguri ari kunzi she poisoned. Hatisi kuzoti akamupoisona wacho ndiani, uye ada kubenefiti pakupoisona Oppah Muchinguri. So tichidzoka kumashure bijana muri yeZimbabwe, Oppah Muchinguri ane history nemasecrets aanoziva akawandisa mukati mebato reZanu PF since kubva 1976 pakafa Tongogara paya mumapfira akaita Tongogara nechikundi chacho chakaronga kuti Tongogara anga achifa wati zvese anozviziva muri yeZimbabwe. Ndosaka muri kuona mazuva aya the late President Robert Mugabe wakamurambidza kunyora bhuku raida kunyora riya wakatomurambidza wakatoti no zvinhu izvozvo hazviite. So tiri kuona panapa inogona iri phase muri yeZimbabwe kana kuti iwo mukati mebato reZanu PF vanogona vakaronga kutoti no ngatingomurwarise zvephase zvezve because tiri kunzoti poison iyi anofanira akapiwa mvura hatizive kana kuti akapiwa muchikafu hatizive, but inogona iri phase kutoti ngatimbomurwarise zve2 minutes tichigadzisa nhauwa dzedu zvematongerwo enyika idzi dzakapera then pamweni anonga adzokawo. Zvinogona kudaro muri yeZimbabwe. But tiri kuona kuti Oppah Muchinguri mazuva pakabudiswa dossier rakabudiswa naVice President Constantino Chiwenga rainge rakanyorwa deletion wire Scott Sakupkanya, Kudata Gurei naWikine Muchivhayo kusanganisira naTongwarara. Dossier riya rinenge rakazongorasirwa haro kure chichi chimwe rakamutsa mutaudzo wakati one day ende rakamutsa mutaudzo dossier riya because kune vanhu vari kudya nezvigananda havana kuda kutombozviziva navo vedzidzo kuti iwe uri kuita seiko chichi vanochita zvinhu zvakasiyana. Tiri kuona Oppah Muchinguri ndiye anga apiwa basa rekutanga achiinvestigata nyaya idzodzo, but akazonzwa late on kuti Oppah Muchinguri wacho akutohorawo mari kubva kuzvigananda. Ani kuzoona pane nhauwa yacho muri yeZimbabwe, akutohora mari kubva kuzvigananda kusanganisira nadeputy wake, kusanganisira nageneral Umonda vari kuhora mari kubva kuzvigananda. So hatisi kuzoti zvinenge zvakamira sei. So muchimwe chishamiso muri yeZimbabwe ndongada tisa panapa taisazve pane nhaurwa yekuti wamunangagwa vangabuda munyika here zvinhu zvisikazikanwi. Paine deal wakatarisana nebig deal rekuti wanga vachipasisa constitutional amendment bill number 3 chinova chiticho chiratidzo chinoratidza kuti zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka. Zvinhu zviri kutyisa, kutotyisa kwazviri kuita because 90 days is not a joke. 90 days is not a joke. Zuva racho rava kusvika, motanga kuda kubuda munyika, motanga kuda kunzi zvazodai, ende futi pane nhauwa iri kunese kutoti kune ma-court challenges. Iwo haungapasisi constitution amendment bill kune ma-court challenges, ndo nhauwa imwe iri kunetsa muri yeZimbabwe. Hatisi kuziva kuti sezvo Chief Justice Malaba vakaenda ava vachatiitireiwo muri yeZimbabwe mudzimai akaiswa uyu, but tiri kuona kuti still ingori ZANU PF because ainzi akadzidza nguva yeRhodesia, ndo first 2 females nguva dzevarungu dzedzedzi kugraduata vachiona madegrees eujaji watwati shishi chimwaya. So tiri kuona kuti more veteran ndo hatizivi, pamweni semukadzi anogona kuva hatinyatsi kuziva. So tira kuti tinzwe Gift Ostalos achitaura pano nenhauwa yakanyorwa neDaily News nezuro kutoti Chamisa is hopeless, haana basa. Bepanhau reDaily News ndo rakanyora izvozvo muri yeZimbabwe. Tisikazozive kuti zvakamira sei, but tongoti kana uri mutsvatsva pano usina kusubscribe, kulike nekushare tichange tichikuzivisei kuti nhauwa dzana Oppah Muchinguri dziri kunyatsa kumbofamba sei. But now haamo muno munyika yeZimbabwe oro arimo, but ari kunzi she poisoned mukati mebato reZanu PF imomo, she poisoned. Ndosaka muri kuona muri yeZimbabwe mukati mebato reZanu PF wanyatsi kutrustana nenhauwa yekupoisoned. Tiri kuona ndofunga muri kuona kuti mapresident tiri kubuda pascreen apa. Zvinhu izvi muri yeZimbabwe kutongwa nemasoja kutori nane than mapolitician kana mabusinessmen. But tiri kuona kuti kuma-western countries Western Africa, not Western Africa, kunana Mali, kunana Burkina Faso, kuko masoja vari kutonga chichi chimwe ana Ibrahim Traore, ana Samin Goita wekunana mali uko chichi chimwe tanzvo zvakasiyana siyana. Ndofunga muri kuona mali yaiswa apa iyi, muri kuona ana Kinya ana William Ruto vari kutoita corruption dzimweni dzakatoma chacha. Kana Ninja vari kutongwa nemasoja vese mhuri yeZimbabwe. Tiri kuona ana Madagascar maimanja apa vari kutongwa nemasoja. So ngatinzwei Gift Ostalos achitaura wodzotodzwa comment section zvona zvakamira sei.
What Chamisa is doing, he's not going to concentrate on Camp 3 only. He's concentrating on the overall of fighting an oppressor so that we can have freedom. That's what we want. The moment we have freedom, we can have a protection of our constitution. We can have a protection of having people, the country develop. We can have a protection of having people who doesn't steal the money. Right now, we got the Chivayo, Tagwirei. Those are the people running the country. If you see them now getting a president from another country, Achua Tambira, on pictures, on videos, then we as a country, we are doomed. If we don't fight, if we just fight Cape Richard, we can be given out, okay, Cape 3, Akuna, but still everything else, we are still oppressed. So we have to fight with all our power. And when we can get an energy of either go on the street, we have to get on the street fighting ZANU-PF to go out of power, because that's our cancer in Zimbabwe. But Nyamashisha, I appreciate you. Mof, I appreciate you. We keep on fighting, guys. If we can fight together, let's not be worried about these people campaigning. Kudakuta push aside one other leader that is not right. Leadership right now, it's not something we should talk about. Right now, it's a matter of saying we are fighting together on Cape 3, wherever you are. You don't need to be in an association. Yokuti party akati kanodichi. No, you fight Cape 3 to know Cape 3. And another thing, Nyamashishaka, and did you see my? Can you see my profile? Zim says no, and did I wish people like on the 18th on Monday. I don't know, Nyamashisha, are you opening a space on May 18th?
Oh yes, and I told these guys. Could this maybe if I'm I'll be on air.
Oh, okay. So when you're on air, Nyamashishaka, let's do something in Zimbabwean city special. You see my profile there. I'm not saying agree to my profile.
I'm even posting in Ngirikini. I'm even reposting pane demo in get it one us.
Okay.
And I'm even report me Zimbabwean embassy. So Saga, this is the kind of thing that I need to be doing on Monday.
Yeah, that's a very important
Monday
yes. That's very important.
Yeah,
because we need it so that people know what we are doing, fighting together. We mustn't be fear. We mustn't fear. And the freedom here to do that. Now, myself, I was asking Yamashishaka, yes, Zimbabweans, right now, when you're sitting in your house right now, look, either take my profile on Monday. Let's make.
Boss Ostalos is there. Mungade kutango kuti hire. Ostalos let me give it to him.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Titus.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, how you doing, my brother? How you doing?
Where's Free? Free
is playing snooker somewhere.
Your guy is gone now.
Yeah, he's playing snooker. He's somewhere playing snooker.
He's pestering me, and I told him that, look, Chief, I've been traveling and I'm exhausted. But I said, no, you must come. There is a discussion happening. I mean, obviously, it's an important discussion where citizens obviously are trying to interrogate what is happening in respect of the statement that came from the Daily News. I think that everyone has seen that there is no quote in verbatim, firstly, from the president. And secondly, I think everyone knows who has followed print media in the country in terms of what lawyers would call the inarticulate major premises of newspapers, particularly the one like Daily News. They obviously have objectives, which all of us know, and those who have followed print media in the country would know what they've always been their position. So I'm actually shocked that why would someone be surprised about such headlines. I think that we all, and someone was asking as I was traveling about what has President Chamisa said in Vebati in respect to the coalition of the progressive forces in the country. You can go and check his tweet, Uncle Jed. It's there in his timeline. I've re-articulated the same position, and I'll reaffirm it today that we are of the firm belief that firstly, and let me state it very clearly for the benefit of your listeners, fellow citizens, that we unequivocally reject the proposed amendment. That position, we've stated it. We might have differences on the technical approaches and interpretation of the amendment, but the unequivocal and emphatic position of the democratic movement is that we reject the bill. That position is clear. What it means and how other people might interpret and how we want to interface with the bill is a matter of difference on tactics and strategies. But the unequivocal position is that we don't have support. We don't support clearly because that bill undermined constitutional democracy in the country. We've had people who raise issues around factional fights of ZANU-PF. We have no interest. Whether one of the factions benefit from the amendment is not our issue, right? We fight for constitutionalism in the country, constitutional order in the country, respect of the rule of law in the country, against a parasitic elite that is looting the country hook, line, and sinker. So that's our position. And that position is stated. Of course, there is an attempt to people say no, overstate this or to remote control what other individuals can say. It happens. It's politics. People might want people to say things in certain way, but we have given the official position and we have stated it repeatedly against all odds from day one, not yesterday, not last week. We've always emphasized the point. We are at a point of departure, of course, in terms of then, for example, what should happen after. And this is not the first time. In 2018, we stated our position. In 2023, before the election, we brought out a document called a pre-election pact on reforms. We raised issues around what we think should happening. Our position is that the constitution must be, some laws of the country must be aligned with the constitution of the land, not amputating that document. And we've said that if you want to amputate the constitution, it was born out of the collective aspirations of the people of Zimbabwe in during the government of national unity. So let's take the document back to the people so that the people can decide to say, okay, we don't want this position, we don't want this provision, because you cannot amend sacrosanct provisions of that constitution without going back to the people. It is clear. And that position is not a position we raised during when this amendment came. We raised this debate even before. Even some of the people today, without taking so much from them, who are opposing this regime, when they were still supporting it, we emphasized this position. And we've been consistent around that. You see, we've been very, very consistent around what we think has to happen and what the future of the country must look like. Where we move from here, people will always have different views in terms of what must go, but it is also healthy for democracy. That is effectively what we're fighting for. So we don't think that people must be incriminated for holding different views around the strategies and tactics of where the country must go. But what is fundamental, Uncle Jed, which is what I'll conclude with, is that our position has been very clear that the unity of the progressive forces in the country is important as we wage this fight. And we don't say these things on the internet. Professor Love Momadugu can attest to the practicality of this position. When the leaders who have been in the forefront in fighting against Constitutional Amendment number 3, when they went to the hearing across the country, we provided the much needed mass mobilization, security to protect all the people, despite that we might be belonging to different umbrella institutions, but we all believe in the same cause. That's why we're able to do this, because to us, solidarity is not just about words and tweets and retweeting and songs. It's about action on the ground. To say, this is Professor Love Mumaduku. He is part of the progressive forces. This, all the people that you saw who went to the hearings, whether it's in Bulawayo, whether it's in Harare, whether it's in Muntari, it is our motive forces on the ground that provided, one, the space, because the regime, Uncle Jed and fellow citizens, made sure that these holes are filled at 5 a.m. I can send, after this conversation, to you, Uncle Jed, some of the mass mobilization meetings that we did prior to the amendment. Despite that, there was all this conversation, where do we stand, and so forth and so forth. But we're very clear in terms of making sure that we do our part, because what is our role within the broad alliance? Our role is always about mass mobilization, bringing the people that are essential in terms of resistance. Go to the same conversation about the late, may so rest in peace, Comrade Bombshell. Major victims of that fight on the day when the demonstration was called were people within the democratic movement. That's why you saw us in and out, both of the courts and in prisons. Masbaboy Shanduko and all these other comrades who were arrested on the fateful day of the day when Geza called, because we have got the mass support on the ground, and we know the responsibility in our shoulders. We might obviously differ in terms of tactic and strategy with other comrades and colleagues, which is healthy and natural within a democratic space, because it's not in ZANU PF where if someone holds a different view, they must be chastised or attacked. Lastly, I want to say this, because there is always a view to say, if a position is given by someone who has supported the organization and the movement, it represents the position of the organization. That is not it. People who support the organization and people who support the movement can articulate their aspiration views against certain people, against individuals, against certain groups. But the official position of the organization is always communicated officially. That to say, this is our view on this matter, this is our view on this matter. Not to say Uncle Jet, who has been a progressive fella, can express his opinion on Nostalos. And then we say, this is the position of the democratic movement. It is not it, because we have to have an official position of the organization to which we can then say we are judging the organization and the movement on the basis of what is being communicated officially. Last, I said last, I think for the past 2 times, but I'll say the last position, because someone someone had asked the question, Mkoma, about the work that we're doing. The summary of what we're doing is posted, we've posted it on all the platforms. We have said, Angujet, fellow citizens, someone has said, no, we want to wait in July when the 100 days, 80 days is over to see what President Chamisa will come and say so that we can judge him. He said something and I underline to see how he's going to structure and organize and so forth. We have said the reason why we're doing what we're doing is to ensure that we build, and I must underline this. To build, it means you are doing something, starting from somewhere. You build from a foundation. So there is an appreciation of the reality of the democratic movement in its current state and character. To say we have to build, that's the first thing. And secondly, we say we want to build a credible alternative. When we say credible, it means that we've appreciated the feedback from the people that, look, we need credibility in terms of the people in the forefront. We need credibility in terms of the work that is being done. It's an appreciation of what everyone, whether we agree with them publicly or not, have raised in terms of what must happen, because this is the movement of the people. Thirdly, we say we want to build a credible alternative. And I underline those 3 words. 1, to build. 2, a credible. 3, an alternative. We don't want to be an asymmetrical reproduction of ZANU-PF. We want to build an alternative to the status quo, an alternative to the present system. So what that means on its own, it means the way you are structured, the way you articulate your policies. It means that when Tudengube says this is our proposition, we are expected naturally to be able to offer an alternative policy positions, because we don't just reject ZANU-PF to replace it. We want to govern, but to govern differently from the current establishment. In this way, we want to ensure that ordinary Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe and in the diaspora are able to find full political expression in this credible alternative that we want to build. Thank you very much, Uncle Jet, Titus, everyone in this space. Greetings to you, those that have not recognized. Thank you very much. I'll end
Do
here.
you can you allow me, one question, one question? All right.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Jet.
Thank you very much, for setting, the record straight, and what you have said pertaining to the not only to what was said in the daily news, but to the whole issue pertaining to Cap 3. But I want to go back to the daily news, because what you have said, it presents an evidential gap, and the existence of that evidential gap warrants whether I may say further questioning or further scrutiny. But I want because when a publication comes out and puts that out, whether it is misrepresenting, or it is being factual, it is. But I needed to find out for the clarity of this space, because this space is anchored on what was said in that publication. I want to believe you say that there's a misrepresentation and of what advocate Nelson Chamisa said. So the first question and second question. The first question is, did he speak to Daily News? And when you say that the article misrepresented the advocate Nelson Chamisa, where exactly is the misrepresentation? And in terms of what he actually said today on his space account, I mean on his X account, can we compare what was said in the Daily News in terms of framing, and then looking at what Advocate Nelson Chamisa has said? Can we say that those two are miles apart in terms of the framing that is come out? I just need to have that clarity, so that we get to understand whether News Daily misrepresented themselves, or News Daily did not even speak to Advocate Nelson Chamisa, and what they've said in that article is a misrepresentation of what Advocate Nelson Chamisa said.
Look, Uncle Jet. Firstly, it's the Daily News, not the News Day, because the News Day is a
Sorry
completely
about that. Yeah, Daily News.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
sorry
has
about
a
that.
completely
Yeah.
different editorial policy, right? The question is just like asking, when has the Herald, when that's the question that you're asking, when has the Herald represented our views at any day in this time? Because the Daily News, like I say, for journalists who are here, and I know that you are able to investigate yourself, Uncle Jet, in terms of the editorial policy, I can donate my 10 minutes after this to go and download all the headlines from the Daily News about ourselves. Not only today, but a year, 2, 3 years ago, right? And then I can even go further by going to say who owns the Daily News, right? The Daily News, it tells you the story. So the question will be, in fact, when has he said anything progressive about the movement? Because as far as I'm concerned, I was the spokesperson of the democratic movement, deputizing Advocate Fadzai for almost 3 years. And you can show me where our views were properly represented. That's why you won't find our quotes in verbatim. At one moment, if you remember, it had been reduced to a paper on dialogue about Pollard. Every day it was committee featuring there. So I don't have to belabor you with that history. So his inarticulate major premise is known by Zimbabweans. It's actually shocking that today it can be an authority around the position of the democratic movement, particularly as led by President Chamis. And then lastly, you had also asked another question around the relationship between what has been said and what the president has tweeted. I don't see any relationship because the messages, I suspect that we are talking about the message about leaders coming and go, which has been our position in the democratic movement. It's a message we have dedicated consistently, not as of today, but all along. We've made it very clear to ZANU-PF that, look, you ran your race during the liberation struggle, but you must understand that you can't be a hero in two struggles. We've done videos, we've done podcasts, we've done leaflets on that message card, my brother, Uncle Jed, and fellow citizens, to say that you liberated the country, you played your part. You are not going to be the heroes of the transformation struggle because leaders lead and live. It's not only a position to ZANU-PF, it's a position that we associate ourselves even with to say, look, we are going to run our race. And at a certain moment in time, we're going to say we are passing on to the next generation and next leadership to take the struggle forward. Because we are not going to be there forever, Uncle Jed. That's what democratic ethos is all about, that we lead and live. We've made that position with members of parliament that we deploy, councillors that we deploy, different people within the rank and file of the organization, including the person of the president. That's why that message comes from the president, because it's a message card of the democratic movement ever since President Tsvangirai was there. He would say, the MDC then, as was led by President Chamisa before the charlatans in Harare took over, thanks to the military regime that assisted them. President Tsvangirai will always say, the MDC, as he was leading at the time, is not a one-generation party. He was very clear that he was not leading to die there. President Tsvangirai was very consistent. And that's why even today we've reaffirmed that message to say, we don't want to have an organization that will only exist during our time. We are building a movement that will outlive all of us. I'm not going to be there. I'll give an example as I conclude. I was deputy spokesperson